we've got responsibility to draw the line almost and know when. I talk about good marketing a lot. I mean, like happy marketing, like
it makes your results tangible. However,
if you're trying to make a quick cheap buck, it is exploitative.
I think a lot of founders tend to think that if they don't take that route, then they get left behind and conversion's going to drop.
It's so fundamentally important to understand what we can do better from a communication perspective to make sure that we're not just jumping and in on someone when they're very, very vulnerable, but making their experience with the brand good and holistic.
Welcome back to Generate Growth, the podcast where we talk all things growth, ecom and marketing. This week we're here to talk about something that brands don't really love talking about very much, but obviously we do. We like a hot take conversation here.
We love to deep dive into those.
Yeah, so obviously it's Mental Health Week this week.
Right.
And we want to have a little bit of a conversation about body image and how that can be used in ads, in marketing, etc. And how it can almost be exploited for conversion, which is obviously not something that we champion. So just want to get hot takey on this one for a second. Where do you see that body image is being used to sell?
Before and afters. I hate them. Like, don't get me wrong, I've used them in ads, but the way that we use them is very, very different to the way that other creatives might use the before and after. We had a conversation about toeing the line with them. I mean, Meta's guidelines anyway, it kind of toes on any ads platform guideline toes on the line of if they're allowed or not. And I think you mentioned, was it Charlotte Tilbury? You had a really
beautiful before and beautiful after. Yeah. That's the example that she uses, and I do think it's a better flip of the narrative.
It really is. I always remember there was an ad for a specific acne breakout brand. And it was those little patches, the pimple patch. And the way that they kind of pushed their marketing was that you should not have acne because it's disgusting, and this doesn't only get rid of the acne, but it covers it up while it's prevalent. And obviously it wasn't as on the nose as that, but it, as someone who has suffered with acne, it does really tap into that raw emotion of everyone thinks I'm a greasy teenager still, and I think we've got responsibility to kind of draw the line almost and know when. I talk about good marketing a lot, and I don't mean good, I mean happy marketing. You want someone to walk away from an experience with a brand feeling like they've gained something or feeling like they've got good vibes from that brand after interacting with them.
I like that. I think from my perspective, before and afters can be done well. I think obviously the Charlotte Tilbury example is a good one. I think obviously it makes your results tangible. However, when it's kind of your entire strategy and you are framing it as acne evil, get rid of your acne, it's not great.
Yeah.
For you then, do you feel like that is exploitative?
I think exploitative is harsh, right? And we're in this reality of just labeling things really, really harsh. Word toxic, for example, we'll go down those kind of really cultural relevant terms that can be very, very damaging. I don't think the intent is as malicious as what it could be. And I think this is where AI is going to come into the conversation, right? And where we might need to think about our content that we're producing and the way that we're producing it so that we can train these models, because shoppers are going to be using AI to look specifically for resolves to the issue. And we're going to be unlocking a service that I probably shouldn't be speaking about right now around AI that really looks at how your customers are looking or seeing you or how you're appearing, and the search term queries on the way that your customers are speaking. I think it's so important to meet your customers on that level. So, for example, acne can be embarrassing. I keep going into the acne route. I'm sure I'll come up with another example at some point. But it can be an embarrassing topic to kind of touch upon and talk about. Weight can be another one, very big, sensitive topic for people. So understanding the way that people are talking and perceiving themselves when they actively are searching and seeking out for these brands could be so fundamentally important to understand what we can do better from a communication perspective to make sure that we're not just jumping and in on someone when they're very, very vulnerable, but making their experience with the brand good and holistic. And that might be being reasonable with how long it might take to get results, what results look like for different people, and being frankly honest about that experience as well. I think is super key and super important. So exploitative, I think it's a little bit too harsh. I don't think many brands mean to do it. I think they're trying to communicate the benefits of their product, but paying attention to how the customers are behaving and reacting. And again, sometimes maybe your customer journey. If you are a skincare brand, for example, and that customer journey is super quick and someone's buying on conversion, like impulse, and then they're converting into a negative review because they're not getting the desired results that they need, maybe you need to look at the copy and content that you're putting out there, because you might be pushing that kind of instant resolve angle.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, just kind of add like a different example into the mix other than the anxiety one. I don't necessarily feel like it's exploitative if it's dealt with sensitivity.
Yeah.
And my example for this is one that I'm probably exposing myself a little bit here, but I see a shit ton of ads for stomach related supplements. So green juices, cacao, you know, all these different things. Every single one is designed to cure bloat. Yeah. I think we know that women quite frequently suffer with bloating. Like, it's a standard that a lot of us suffer with. However, I really, really struggle with it on like a self-esteem level. It really knocks my confidence when I'm feeling really bloated, and it makes me feel really, really unwell as well. And I have seen ads where they're almost like the before and after of the green juice, or, you know, the horrifying mango, pineapple, ashwagandha, reishi, mushroom blend, you know, something ridiculous. And it's a before and after, and it's always someone who's kind of puffed the stomach out a little bit more, and then they look nice and slim on the next one. And the way they frame it is always like, beat the bloat, get rid of the bloat, get rid of this ugly trait. And I'm like, I have that. And then my brain goes, oh, so that's something that I need to fix from an aesthetic standpoint then? Because from my perspective, I'm like, I feel really, really uncomfortable in my own skin when that crops up. So if you can give me a product that takes away that physical sensation, then fine, I will go for it and I will buy that product from you. But if you're trying to sell that to me because you're telling me that I look ugly right now, then I don't feel good about that.
I think it's the importance of the language, isn't it? I think there's something to be said if someone said that you've got a puffy face or you look puffy today. It's very, very emotive and powerful and makes you act on an insecurity. I think representation is so important, you know, like I when you said about specifically these kind of like green juicy brands, it made me immediately go to protein brands, and protein brands have really hit into like this fitness kind of gym goer vibe. Anyone could need these like supplements or whatever, you know, juice, the drinks or whatever.
I mean, ADHD is a fine example, right? A lot of people with ADHD need protein in the morning.
Get creative with who you're speaking to and why you're trying to like resolve the issue. And I think it's what we spoke about in the last episode about fundamentally knowing why you're doing something and who you're trying to communicate with. If you're trying to make a quick, cheap buck, you know, it is exploitative. But if you're trying to grow a community of confidence, that's a completely different conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it can become very tired very quickly when it's almost like a relied upon tool. I think a lot of founders tend to think that if they don't take that route, then they get left behind and conversion's going to drop. I know that we specifically had that example of a client who did activewear, and she had some phenomenal assets of a very diverse range of women, and we sent through creatives. And I hate retelling this story, to be honest, because it upset me when I even found out.
It actually kind of shook the whole team.
It was really upsetting. And she basically was like, take the woman in the wheelchair out of these ads. And I was like,
whoa,
huh?
Yeah, I remember that.
How are you going to preach about body positivity and utilize that for your ads and for your conversion quite clearly if you want to remove the representation of someone with a disabled body from your campaign?
I think I need to caveat on the fact that I believe the client thought that there wasn't enough people in wheelchairs that they were trying to...
I don't think that matters.
I completely agree. And I think that raises the conversation, right? Of customer persona building and how you represent people in a bunch of different ways. And I think it's not necessarily as simple as like a disability or skin color or, gender. These things are nuanced, and it can, really like become a bigger discussion. And you can really speak to a lot of people by gaining experience. Again, we've worked with a brand to kind of like flip it onto the positive side of things. That sold Lash serum, and they specifically made their content creators as broad and as wide as possible in terms of who they were trying to achieve, like who they were trying to speak to. And that was really engaging because that founder had a specific issue and started that brand. Then she started to engage with people with cancer, for example, where, hair loss is a huge thing that they're trying to overcome. Never had cancer before, but did she have those conversations and start to work it into a strategy that was kind and compassionate and caring towards that community? Yeah. Like, and I think fundamentally that is so important. Like, it goes beyond just your typical like demographics or stereotypes. It goes much more deeper into that. So I think really looking at, it's funny that you say like the mushroom era of like I remember at one point it was just like everything was about ADHD because they were really jumping on this neurodiverse bandwagon that seemed to be happening at the time. And I just thought, get a bit more creative, like maybe like instead of just like really saying to people with like, ADHD or neurodiversity, like, I'm not even going to try and go down that route because I just get confused, to be honest. But instead of just like focusing on those people and being like, these are all the problems that you can resolve, problems in your personality and your characteristics and stuff like that. How about like spin it into a positive instead? And I think that's where, like, I remember seeing the checkbox ads of, tiredness and like all these negative connotations of not having the products versus I really do believe in that positive marketing spin, because then it does err on the side of exploitation if not.
Yeah, I think you don't need to go as literal as being like, this product is going to give you a superpower. Like, it's highly unlikely that is not going to happen unless they've got some mental scientists working in a lab somewhere. But there is ways of communicating things that don't involve like, this is a life-changing product and this is going to change your XYZ. Like,
yeah.
So for those founders then that do feel like it's kind of a crucial part of conversion, do you think that's true?
I think it's crucial in the fact that you have to find creative ways to communicate benefits. However, seldom rare you come across a product that is brand new to the market. Like, is completely brand new. Say Lash serum to you, you could probably name about 10 Lash serum providers. If I say foundation providers, or if I say, mushroom coffee, you could maybe name like 5, right?
Yeah.
And I think like what it is everyone knows what the product is because your competitors and you are going about shouting the benefits. But what makes you stand out in the noise? People need educating, yes, but my phone's just gone off for some reason. But the people need educating, yes, but I think ultimately what happens is it needs to be a conversation of what makes your brand different. Is it the product quality? Is there something different that you're doing? We were chatting about Fenty Beauty the other day. I was
my God, yes, we were.
Don't you find it crazy that Rihanna managed to jump onto that because there was just such a big gap in the market, and she solved it, and that was a $1 billion brand, like, and I think that is so important. Like, what are you individually trying to do to give back to your customer versus just take?
Yeah, but the beautiful thing that Fenty did, and I think this is where like she's a high converting but safe and non-exploitative brand, and this is like a really good example of that as well, is she took something that was missing, and I remember it coming out at the time, and it was like Black women were struggling to find, I say Black women, Black people were struggling to find foundation that specifically matched their skin tone because it was not designed by them and it was not meeting their needs. And she went, I've got you. She produced it, and she just went, here, I've produced this for you because I identified a gap in the market. She didn't turn around and go, I'm going to close out people I'm going to close out white people or anything like that. She literally was like, here's my demo and I want to provide a product for you. I'm going to provide it for everyone. But it was like representing so many different people, and it was inclusive of everyone. She wasn't trying to isolate anyone. She wasn't trying to exploit anyone. She was producing a product to fill the gap in the market, and then she was producing the product for everyone else as well.
Yeah.
But that was not her speciality, let's say.
Yeah. A polarizing one, but Kylie Jenner. I always remember when Kylie Jenner launched, is it Kylie Lip?
I think it was just called Kylie, wasn't it?
I got the lip thing.
Kylie
anyway.
Cosmetics.
That's it.
How out of touch are we?
Oh God, don't get me started. But anyway, I always remember the marketing strategy is that she was talking about this, and it was, I remember the product benefits and the virality of the products at the time. But then she was also talking about children that she was supporting with cleft lip surgery at the same time. That's what I'm talking about. Like, she managed to utilize the product in a way. And now I don't know what her marketing strategy was with the product, but she managed to utilize those funds from the product to give back to the community in a way that was like relevant, and it was like a full circle moment. And I think those identifiers are so important to unlock. And I think when you do that, that's when you become a game changer. And you don't have to harness on people's vulnerabilities to get there.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Kylie and Rihanna had huge followings beforehand, but their product did still solve a problem that people were experiencing. And if we were to talk on a lower level, It Cosmetics, Jamie Lee Curran, I think she's called, that started because she had rosacea, and she literally went on QVC and showed her applying the rosacea and what that did and made her feel as a person. And that again is positive marketing, because you can see the person, you can see the flip in the confidence, and you can be brought on that journey.
Yeah. You hate this brand, but Glossier was a similar one. Emily Weiss actually created.
I don't hate Glossier, by the way. Can I just stop? Because can we just rephrase Glossier? I actually like Glossier. I dislike the fact that so many people.
You dislike the name now. It's become like a buzzword. You hate the fact that everyone thinks they can position themselves like Glossier when they're not Glossier.
It's almost like the Gucci of cosmetics at this point. You're not going to get the standard Glossier.
Yeah, but the point anyway was that Emily Weiss founded Into the Gloss, which was like a huge beauty website, and she collaborated with a ton of like phenomenal people in the industry, Charlotte Tilbury being one, to be fair.
Right.
And it was one of my favorite websites, to be fair. I absolutely loved it. It was like Vogue, but so much more exciting back then. And she kind of tapped into, before it was even a thing, and before obviously TikTok and Instagram kind of like massively took off, of like the clean girl aesthetic. So it really spoke to people like me that didn't want to wear like really heavy foundation and, you know, heavy mascara and things like that. And all of her products were designed to kind of look like you weren't really wearing anything.
Yeah.
And that was back then a huge gap in the market. It isn't now.
Yeah.
But back when Glossier was founded, it was. And obviously Emily Weiss channeled all of her Into the Gloss money into Glossier, and that's how that happened.
Love that.
But all of these brands do have that one thing in common, that they identified someone wasn't quite happy with something. Yeah.
P.Louise is a huge one. P.Louise literally started with little to no capital investment. And it's the same conversation. So it doesn't need to be on that huge scope of, you know, like the founder being like massively like invested into something. They just found a part of the market without having to exploit people specifically. And then double down on it, and it's commendable.
Yeah, they knew an area that they wanted to fill, and they turned around and went, I want to do that, and I want to do it safely. I'm going to speak to these people directly, and that is arguably what every single one of them does, because they all have completely different branding and completely different approaches. I mean, to me, P.Louise is really, really loud, and that's not like my kind of brand, but for so many people that is, and it really resonates.
It's affordable, and it's, you know, it's inclusive. It breaks down so many. I mean, she gets a lot of flack, do not get me wrong, and some of the stuff that she has been alleged to do has been questionable. However, I can't not commend building something that was built on giving back into the community. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, though, every time I think of P.Louise, it does give me the giggles because all I can think about is those 2 dogs that she's got called, is it Blusher and Contour?
I can't remember. Or was it like Foundation and Contour? That, you know, the fact they were French Bulldogs, it's the best. I remember
so
watching
funny.
her Founder Diaries. I was obsessed with that. I was like, I love that. Yeah, because it's just my type of dog as well. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I love that. From your perspective then, all these women we've kind of established have got like something in common. It's that non-exploitative way of filling that gap in the market and speaking to their ideal customer.
Yeah.
What is it about them then, in that they're building trust in a safe manner and not just getting attention for the sake of it? Because I would actually argue, I know obviously what you said about Kylie Jenner, I would argue that some of her success, I mean, ignoring the fact that she's come from a massive wealthy empire, some of her success in the early stages was obviously it was the lip kit, and she was promoting that as, this is what makes my lips look so big. Babe, no.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was the lip filler.
Yeah.
It was the lip filler. Your product is great. It was obviously doing wonders for a lot of people, but it was the lip filler.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of gave that virality there.
Yeah.
But the large majority of the others didn't have that attention behind them. They had positive trust building with their consumers. So how does someone make that happen?
I think it's showing up consistently and being true to your brand vision. I think it helps when the person involved is a consumer of the product as well. I mean, there's been brands that have been built that, you know, completely oversized, but I think there's a true element of care in there. No matter how much money is invested or, you know, the background of the person, I think it builds they know what they're not going to stay away from in terms of the values of the brand. And I think that helps massively.
Yeah, I think this is why things like review mining are super important as well.
Super important. It's what I said about like understanding like with how people are engaging and searching and what they're searching for when they're talking about your brand, and where you're appearing is so important as well.
Then you know what your customer is talking about, and you know what gap you fill in, and you know exactly how to continue to fill that and how to approach it sensitively, which is the key fundamentally. So if we are to one takeaway from this conversation then about body positivity, what's your one takeaway?
Please just invest in positive marketing in a time where, you know, there's a lot of negativity in the air in terms of, you know, we could talk about, you know, the hyper political. It is so intense right now for everyone. And there's a lot of short form content, a lot of churn, and we could all do without, you know, really making those vulnerable, like people, like vulnerabilities in any person more exploited than they already are. So really look at how you're communicating, the words that you're using to push your brand, and how you could, you know, do that in a way that feels ethical and aligned to the values of the brand.
I have one additional add-on to that. If you're not inclusive and you're happy with that, be happy with that.
Yeah.
Don't fake it.
Yeah, don't fake
it. If
it.
you are representing the skinny white women and that is it, just allow yourself to stay in that lane.
Yeah.
Don't do this faux inclusivity for the sake of conversion.
Double down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah. Because people will then recognize that and build trust with you that way.
Yeah, I feel like I dipped back into Meryl Streep mode then, and that was actually last week. So
maybe we're just becoming a bit more brutal in this podcast, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe getting a bit more catty. Amazing. Well, I actually really enjoyed that conversation, to be honest. It's an area that I feel really passionate about, so it was really nice bouncing ideas off you. So next week we're going to be talking about 3 lessons that we've learned, because it's actually going to be our 3-month anniversary of Generate. So we'll be talking about, you know, changing loads of things at once, which is obviously something that people fall into the trap of quite frequently. And we'll also be talking about our anti list as well, of things that we wouldn't necessarily recommend you do going ahead.
Amazing.
Are we signing off the way that we sign off, Team Me?
Let's do it.
Today marks the 3-month anniversary of Generate.
We got through a quarter.
Yeah, we did. We survived.
During that period, it was stressful for us and the team, you know?
So the first thing that we've learned in the last 3 months is